Most of us in this hobby are actually involved in this for two reasons. One is that we love our country and we love the history of this country. Second, we hope to try and educate people with what we do here at Re-enactments about our country's history, because I'm afraid that they don't know, or they're not being taught properly, our country's history. It's kind of tough when you're given a textbook and you read about what had happened 235 years ago. In doing this, we hope to get them motivated to research more about how these rugged individualists actually formed this new nation, because we're still a relatively young nation, but formed this nation from nothing, basically. I mean, they were solely dependent upon, when they first came here, for the mother country, but then they became independent and actually were able to support themselves, and rightly so. They had the right to do that. But sadly today, a lot of people aren't aware of that rugged individualism, or actually how this country was formed, because they don't take the time in the public school systems today to teach our country's history properly. So that's why most of us get involved, in the hopes that we'll reach enough people eventually that they'll be able to have their eyes open to how this country suffered, and how we struggled, and how we got through starting this country. And then we also react to other time periods. And throughout our nation's relatively short period of time so far, we try to convey that to people, what the soldiers went through, what the common people thought about, because we've done a lot of research ourselves. So that's our goal, actually, try to open people's eyes as to what the country was all about back then. It's very relative today. It actually, a lot of the perspectives and a lot of the things that were written about by our great founding fathers still applies today. And sadly, it's not being taught. And that's the sad part about it. They're not aware. They always think of these guys as old white men in wigs who sat in Philadelphia one day, in the summer, and wrote these documents. But if they actually read about a lot of their autobiographies and what they really felt and thought and so forth, maybe more people might wake up someday and realize the peril that we're in.
The Declaration of Independence, all the signers, when they signed that Declaration of Independence, they knew they were signing their death warrant. That if we didn't win our independence, they were all going to be tried and hanged and quartered.
What did Franklin say? If we don't hang together, we surely will hang separately.
4th of July, I really like to see people. 4th of July, each state here has signers, the Declaration of Independence. How many people know where their signers are? I know where one of mine is. He lived in a town not too far from me. I'm from Woodbridge Township in Middlesex County, New Jersey. Abraham Clark was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. On 4th of July, before I went and had my hamburgers or popped open that first beer, I went to that grave. That man gave all. His sons died in the American Revolution. He was made a pauper. He lost everything, because New Jersey was a Tory hangout. And he was right there against New York City, which was run by the British, held control of that all during the war. That man put his name on that Declaration of Independence and lost everything. And people should have some more respect for the people that gave their all for this thing. They just didn't sign it and win. 1/3 of the population of this country at the time wanted independence from England. 1/3 wanted to stay loyal to the crown, and 1/3 were just fence sitters. Unfortunately, if we're ever going to have freedom and our rights and a great republic again, maybe that 1/3 is going to have to step up and really be more vocal. And usually people are afraid of saying these things, but I think we're in dire times right now, that if we don't see it, people don't wake up and see it, we're going to lose everything.
And
do you think that any country in the world would allow us to come out here and reenact this with our firearms?
No, there are a lot of foreign countries who reenactors actually have to come here to the States to reenact because of the firearm regulations. But he was mentioning there's a document that I recently reread that's very relevant today, and if some people get an opportunity to read it, it's The Crisis by Thomas Paine. And it was written because of the depletion of the Continental forces right before Washington decided to invade Trenton when the Hessians were there. And they were losing hundreds of men every day. So Thomas Paine was asked to write something that Washington could give to the troops to try and rouse their spirit. So he wrote this pamphlet called The Crisis. And if you read the first paragraph of that, it says, "These are the times that try men's souls." And he actually went on to compare and contrast the summer and sunshine patriot versus those who gave all. And I believe that statement still holds today. These are the times that try men's souls. And are people going to stand up and take a stand? Or are they just going to sit back and allow somebody else to do it for them? So hopefully we'll get more people down the road standing up and taking a stand and voicing their opinion and stepping forward.
And the problem is, when it comes to this, the one thing that bothers me the most is when I hear the terms being militia. The militia is such an evil thing. My wife, Deborah Mundy and Nessie, had 3 ancestors that fought in the 2nd Middlesex Militia. They fought in the Battle of Long Island. They fought all the way across New Jersey and fought at Trenton. These guys were militia. They were farmers. They weren't regular soldiers. These guys did this for love of country, not like a Hessian who did it for money. These militia was the thing that made this country. And if we go back up, you want to go back, how about the Battle of Saratoga? There was 600 Hessians that were fighting with up in Saratoga. And what ended up happening, they split off to ravage the countryside. It was the militia that destroyed those Hessians, not regular troops. So you know what? If it wasn't for the militia, we wouldn't have this country, because they're the ones that stepped forward to fight. They fought in every major battle that the American Revolution was involved in. And it's not a dirty word. I think it's a glorious word. An American militiaman is the most important thing that we had. And maybe because everybody, maybe like me, they speak up like this, they're considered a wacko because they love their country. This is my country. My ancestors go back to Jamestown, Virginia. I can trace my ancestry way back. My wife's ancestors go all the way back to Nicholas Mundy, who landed in the 1600s in Perth Amboy, New Jersey. We only live a couple of miles from where her ancestors originally came in. I've got roots in this country. I love my country. This is not this country should be a lot better. And if somebody wants to come here, I'm not degrading them, because I'm also Irish, and I believe in having my St. Patrick's Day. We're given that day, but I don't think we should be bowing our knuckles down and changing things like motor vehicle. Somebody got to go take a test. They give it in 47 languages. You want to drive? Please speak English so we can all understand. This way we don't have to worry about the police officers having to speak other language. They can't read their rights because they don't understand. Where have we come that we got to this point where our simple laws can't even be followed? Because we're trying to make do. Because we want to make all. We were a country of immigrants. Yes, we were a country of immigrants that came here, and they may have talked in Little Italy in New York or in Chinatown, but when they came together, they spoke English, a common thing. We were all Americans. Even in World War II, with all the tragedies that the Japanese Americans had to go through, they still fielded 2 units, 100th Battalion and the 442nd Regimental Combat Team was the highest declared unit in the American Army in World War II, and they fought in Italy. Japanese Americans. Do we see that today? No. Unfortunately, what we see is people with Muslim ancestry are getting into our military and throwing grenades into our tents, or shooting our troops in Fort Hood, Texas. Please, if somebody's doing something, I'd love to see it. All I'm seeing is the bad things. And for the nation of the Islamic thing, the Quran doesn't speak any of this. But for some reason, everything else is we're infidels. If you don't go along with them, you're an infidel. I'm not an infidel. I'm an American first, and then I'm Irish. In fact, the Irish are the only ones that consider themselves American Irish. And I hold that with pride, that the Irish are Americans first, and then our ancestry is Irish. Look it up, Irish American Association, but not anything else. Americans first.
This is Nancy. Well, basically, we like American history.
We like American history, Civil War, Revolution.
And the group we belong to, the First New Jersey Lost Volunteers, well, we enjoy the people we're with.
Yeah, they're nice people and everything. But, we're always watching stuff on the History Channel. You know, like he knows more than I do, so we'll watch something and, oh, I didn't know, like World War II. Because when we went to school, like, you know, discuss World War II. It was like, you know, different entities. But I mean, some of the stuff is very interesting. It's fun. We enjoy doing what we're doing with whoever we're doing it with, you know. And we know people from other regiments, you know, so we have friends in different groups, and it's very nice.
Just out of curiosity, around about where your ages are.
74.
64. I like your little... Anything furry, I like it.
If you want my official nom de plume is Chamberlain Douchy. I live in New Jersey. I've lived there for 32 years. Military family. My father's family moved all around. I was actually born in Portsmouth, Virginia. Moved around from there. My mother's from not Greenock. Whatever the hell it was. I'll get it, because I only visited it twice. We gotta go anyway? I'll be there in a sec. But at any rate, my mom's the Scottish person, and we lived in the Glasgow area. She's not from Greenock. I'd have to go and ask her again anyway. But I've only been there twice. To her place anyway. I see all my relatives all the time. I got involved in all this basically out of one different historical fascination after another. I also do World War II as a British para. I do World War I as a Seaforth Highlander. I've also got garden equipment, but I haven't got enough to do that yet. I also do the SCA, which is 1603 and before. And so there's an awful lot of history that I enjoy doing. These folks are very attuned to their history, and there's a specific time period. And they have the detail so much that it actually feels alive. For example, and the reason I say that is, it's real nice. I mean, it's real nice when the public all comes out like this, because they get to share it with us. But when the sun goes down and everyone goes home and it's just us dressed like this with all the interests like that, the shared camaraderie, the folk tunes, the tunes that we'll be singing in there at what, about 5:30, 6 o'clock after supper anyway. The supper is all in period also. It literally is like turning back a clock for yourself. And everyone else is the same way. And so it all meshes, and it's fascinating to be in that time. It's turning back a clock. It really is enjoyable because of that. Any other questions?